Hey guys, I'm Daisho, and I am finally here bringing you another video. It's been a really long time, I know, since I've made one, but trust me, I have thought about making videos all the time. I never get around to it these days. I think it's been about 2 years since I've posted a video, so if anybody does end up seeing this, I really do appreciate it. We're doing some Aether Revolt draft today. I really like this format. I know a lot of people have had some issues with it, but I've been enjoying it quite a bit, so hopefully this will make it a little bit easier to see. Anyway, this pack is a really good pack. Hungry Flames, Monstrous Onslaught are in the same pack a lot. I always take Hungry Flames over Monstrous Onslaught. Originally, I thought Onslaught would be one of the better cards in the format, but it turns out to just be okay. I think here I'm going to take Free Jam Regent. This card is really just an incredible rare. You end up killing your opponent in about 2 turns with it almost every time because your deck is usually pretty aggressive. I'm not 100% sure if it's better than Hungry Flames, and they are in the same color, so it's a little bit awkward, but I'll be happy to start off with a Free Jam Regent, and then from there I can move on and pick some more artifacts to pump it out and maybe try and get into a blue-red improvised deck. So with that being said, the second pack has these 2 red commons who also often show up together, Aether Chaser and Shock, which is, I'm sure everybody watching this video knows what Shock is, but it's an interesting one. I have been taking Aether Chaser over Shock. I know that a lot of people would say that that's wrong and that Shock is just better. You want the cheap removal, but I'm going to take Aether Chaser here because first of all, that's my gut. That's how I always have been playing until I started watching some of the pros play and do a little bit differently. And then also because I do really like the fact that I'm starting with an Aether Chaser, which makes a servo, so my Free Jam Regent will be able to pump it out. It's not too much of a, I don't feel like it's too much of a risk taking the red card over maybe a better white card or a solid green card, just because red is so deep in this format that even if somebody near you is playing red, then you can still get a good deck with it because there's so many good red cards all over the place. So this is an interesting pack. I can go with a Bastion Inventor, which red-blue Improvise is really the best improvised deck, in my opinion, and pretty clearly, to be honest. And this is definitely a solid top-end card that you'll want in the deck, but usually you can pick them up a little bit later than 3rd pick, and there is a Caught in the Brights here, which if I do end up just in red-white, I don't need to play the Free Jam Regent really early. It's not like I have a ton of Improvise and I have to be an improvised deck so far. And Caught in the Brights is better in red-white than it is in any other color because you have a couple of incentives to play more vehicles. Still really early. I can definitely pick up like a Mobile Garrison or a Oval Chase Daredevil at some point throughout this pack. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Caught in the Brights here. Bastion Inventor is probably pretty close second. I've never actually played with Shielded Aether Thief, but I don't think it's really the kind of thing that I want to be doing in this format. Alright, so here we have not much in red again. So we saw red in the first 2 packs, and even though I did mention that it often you can often play it with when somebody else is right next to you, but it could be that this draft is the exception. And I won't actually have a good chance to jump into red just because I won't get too many red cards. I could take the Mobile Garrison to try and stay open, but I think I'm going to go with Airdrop Aeronauts. This card I thought would be so good, and I think it still is at its best in a red-white deck because it's for sure going to be aggressive. I'm going to be attacking on my turn, and hopefully if they trade, then I can win pretty much any race. And if not, then it's still a 4-3 flyer, which is really going to win the late game. The problem is that Dawnfeather Eagle's at common, and you usually can pick up 1 or 2, and you also usually really want 1 or 2. So, and it costs the same amount of mana, and it's also a very similar role in the deck. So, it tends to be a little bit awkward sometimes when you have Airdrop Aeronauts and Dawnfeather Eagle in the same deck. Here we've got another Hinterland Drake, so that's the second blue card in a row that we saw. It's pretty good. They had another Hinterland Drake in the previous pack. Emerald Gear Smasher has been in every single pack I've seen so far. I can go with like a Siege modification on the hope that I pick up a couple of vehicles later, but I don't know if I really want to jump into red, considering my only 2 red cards are my first 2 picks. I think I'm going to go with Mobile Garrison. It's not a great vehicle because when you look at it, you crew 2, but you only get 3 power, so you're really not increasing your power that much. But due to the fact that I might end up in this improvised deck, I'll have at least 1 Caught in the Brights, probably pick up another one at some point. It'll be valuable to just have a couple of vehicles lying around throughout the deck. Alright, so this is a good pack for me. I can either take Restoration Specialist or Frontline Rebel. Destructive Tampering is also a card that I really like, but I only ever really want one of those in my deck. The red-white deck is definitely the one that wants Frontline Rebel. You can also play it in the red-green deck, which is a really aggressive one, but I think I'm going to take it here. Restoration Specialist tends to be better in the green decks that play Renegade Map or Unbridled Growth or both, because not only does this let you pick up those 2 cards and sometimes get a 2-for-1 out of it, but you also can enable Revolts, and that deck really wants to have cheap Revolt enablers. So I think I'm going to go with Frontline Rebel. Wow. It's nice that I've been taking red and white cards, and then I get a Renegade Wheelsmith 7th, which is definitely a signal that red-white is open. I mean, it could be a signal that somebody next to me... Well, actually, I mean, probably is a signal that nobody next to me is in red, because Renegade Wheelsmith is really just a great card, but they might be already in a solid red-blue deck, and they don't want to switch over to it. I don't really want an implement of improvement in this deck. I only have 1 improvised card. Hopefully I'll pick up a couple of Sweatworks Brawlers. That's a card that I really like to see in this deck, but Renegade Wheelsmith is exactly what I want to see right now, so I'm glad to pick that up. Call for Unity was a card that I tried a bunch at the beginning. It's not too good. Countless Gears Renegade is also not really that good in this deck, because you want to play it on turn 2, so it's just a 2/2, and you're not going to be playing like Renegade Maps or Unbridled Growths or anything like that that can enable Revolt for free. So maybe I'll pick up a couple of red implements, but beyond that, it's just going to be with attacking to enable Revolt. But either way, I'll play a 2/2 for 2 in this deck, so it's not a big deal. Here's that Destructive Tampering that I wanted to see. I'll play one of these in my main deck. I don't usually want to play the second, but 1 is definitely pretty solid. Not much here. I'll take the Conviction. It's not something that I really plan on playing, but it's a solid card. This is actually an interesting one. I think I'm going to take the Gear Smasher here. With the Aether Chaser and maybe the Renegade, it could get some artifacts, and you never know when like the board will stall and you'll need a couple of damage to get through. I have a lot of 3-drops already, so that's a worry. Night Market Guard tends to be good when you're playing... Siege Modification tabled. So, but anyway, Night Market Guard tends to be good when you're playing either Consulate Dreadnought, which is crew 6, so then you want to be able to crew it with 2 3-power creatures, or Iron Tread Crusher, which is crew 3, so you'll be able to crew it with just that 1 creature, as opposed to the Gear Smasher, which won't get you there. Well, this is unfortunate. There's a Ridgescale Tusker in this pack. I don't think that I want to move out of white to play the Ridgescale Tusker, but that is definitely something that I really need to consider at this point. I don't think I really saw much green in the first pack, so it wouldn't be worth taking it for me. Plus, I have a good option in Shock. I don't have a lot of removal yet, and I don't have any cheap spells, and this deck wants to play both cheap spells and removal. There's also a Dawnfeather Eagle, which is a sweet card, and an Iron Tread Crusher, which is one that I would gladly play in this deck, and I really am hoping to pick up an Iron Tread Crusher. I guess I could move that down a little bit. So yeah, Ridgescale Tusker is just one of the best cards in the format, if not the best card in the format, to be honest. Maybe it's definitely in the top 5, including Mythic Rares and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm going to take the Shock here. I have some solid white cards, and I've already built I already have my deck going in a solid direction, so I don't want to shift all that on the hopes that I end up in a good spot. Well, this is quite unfortunate. I guess I have the Iron Tread Crusher that I wanted to pick up, but I didn't see any good red or white cards initially. I'll play a Precise Strike, but I'm usually not happy about it. It's not the best combat trick. It really doesn't play that well with Aether Chaser. It plays well with Frontline Rebel and Renegade Wheelsmith, but in general, there are better pump spells that you can pick up. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the Iron Tread Crusher, actually. I definitely wanted at least one in my deck. Probably just one, but... Okay, so here we have not much. Reckless Racer is a solid one, and I am getting a bit stocked up on 3s, which is a problem with this deck because you get Frontline Rebel at common, and then in the next pack you get Spireside Infiltrator, which tends to go late, and Salvating Gremlin. So there's just a lot of 2 in a red or 2 in a white cards that you end up with in your deck. But Reckless Racer is a good one, especially if I have Mobile Garrison. Maybe I'll pick up a like a Sky Skiff or a Renegade Freighter in pack 3. So we'll see what I end up getting. But I do like this card quite a bit, so I'm happy to pick it up here. It's definitely a strong body at a 2/3 first strike for 3, and then its ability is quite good with vehicles, and it's even good with just attacking. So something's wrong here. I'm definitely not in the right colors. For somebody in my left is in white, I think, which is strange. I didn't pass too much white, but so at this point, I think I'm just going to take this Prey Upon. I could take a Wrangle, but I don't think I want to be playing that card. I could take an Implement of Malice, but I mean, I really doubt that I'm going to end up playing this, but I'm not going to really be playing any of the cards in this pack, so things are not going too well in this pack. And then I get past this one, which again, no white cards, so I really do think somebody right to my left is in white, which is not the end of the world, to be honest, but just because they're only passing me one pack, and it's a pack of Aether Revolt, where white is not great anyway. It's unfortunate that I won't pick up like another Caught in the Brights, and maybe I'll get a Wheelsmith, but probably not. Anyway, this pack has a couple of considerations. I've got this Chandra's Revolution, which is great. There's also an Implement of Combustion, but again, I didn't really pick up too many improvised cards, and the same thing with Welder Automaton, which is really nice with Sweatworks Brawlers, because it's a nice 2-drop that's good in the late game, and also can power out my Sweatworks Brawlers. But I do really like Chandra's Revolution, so, and I don't have that many 4s right now, so I'm happy to pick that up. Alright, and now after I keep saying that white's not open, I see 2 strong white cards. In general, I think Felidar Guardian is a better card than Airdrop Aeronauts, but I only have 2 Revolt cards, and I guess this guy has an Edge of the Battlefield effect, but not really. So I think I'm going to take the second Aeronauts here, especially if I don't pick up a Dawn Feather Eagle. It'll be nice to have a couple of those at the top of the curve. It is a consideration that I'm taking these double white cards, and I don't have a lot of white cards, which means that this deck will be playing at most 8 planes, perhaps even fewer. But again, there really isn't too much that's great for me in this pack, and Felidar Guardian is not exactly where I want to be. Well, sometimes you just get lucky and you pick up Renegade Wheelsmith 8th and 7th. So, yeah, I guess that's all. I guess this isn't 8th. This is 6th. 7th pick. I got 2 7th pick Renegade Wheelsmiths. So red white is definitely the open colors. But it's just been unfortunate that I haven't seen too much in between those. Alright, so Destructive Tampering. I don't want to play 2 in the main deck. I'll play the second one out of the sideboard in case I see a lot of artifacts for my opponent. So I can either take a second Iron Tread Crusher or a Precise Strike. I have a ton of 3-drop, or 3, well, I guess I don't have a ton. I have these 2 Wheelsmiths and this Frontline Rebel, which all play really well with the Iron Tread Crusher. There's a few, yeah, I think I'm going to take the second Iron Tread Crusher. If I don't pick up another vehicle, then I'll want 3 vehicles. I also have the Aeronauts to crew it, and I can pick up like Doorbusters and Spontaneous Artists, so there's a couple of good options out of red in pack 3, and I think I'll be okay missing out on the bad pump spell. Again, not too much in this pack. I can take this Night Market Guard, which might end up making the deck, but probably won't. So Precise Strike is a card that I need more because I don't have any pump spells, but Frontline Rebel is a creature that I can use to replace this Gear Smasher, which I don't really want to play. So I think I'm going to take the Frontline Rebel here. It's definitely possible that I should be taking the pump spell because I want at least one of those in my deck, but I think Frontline Rebel will do better work for me. Well, I got another Siege modification. It's too bad I didn't pick up any Consulate Dreadnoughts, or that card would actually go in my deck, because I do have these 2 Iron Tread Crushers and this Mobile Garrison. But I think since I'm doing a pretty good job crewing them organically. I don't really need to try and go for the high risk play of using siege modification. Not much in this pack. I'm just going to take this Beaumont Courier. In terms of red and white cards, there's a Reckless Weaver and Acrobatic Aeronaut. If I was in green, I would be able to get this Arborback Stomper, but I mean, I want early plays anyway. I think this card is pretty good, especially if you end up with a decent amount of removal. I don't have too much. I guess I have this Shock, Caught in the Brights, and Chandra's Revolution. It also works well with the Wheelsmiths, though. So I guess it also is a Revolt enabler for these, but it's not really reliable because you have to discard your hand in order to do it. But yeah, if you get this guy out on turn 1, then it often becomes a huge problem for your opponents. So I'll pick it up. I'm not too unhappy about it, but definitely not thrilled. I really need 2 drops here. So after I say I really need 2 drops, I get this pack, which is just insane. It's got Snare Thopter, which is an amazing card. Thriving Grubs, Sky Skiff, both 2 drops. Inspiring Vantage, which is a great land, and I really need fixing for this deck. Aerial Responder, which is another really good card. This is a tough one. I have to really think about whether I want my power level to be a little bit higher or whether I want my deck to be more consistent. I'm not going to take the 2 drop even though I really need it, so because there are so many better cards in this pack than these 2. I think taking the Aerial Responder without having the Inspiring Vantage is a mistake because I don't know if I'll be able to cast it on time. So it's really between Snare Thopter and Inspiring Vantage to me. I'm leaning towards Snare Thopter. I don't have much in the way of... I guess I do have flyers at the top end. You know, I'm going to take the Inspiring Vantage. I'm really not sure this is right, but I already have 18 solid playables, so I only need to pick a few cards to fill out my deck. And this is a way of using a pick on something that I really will need in the deck, which is fixing. But I won't have access to outside of this pick, whereas I'll have access to a couple of good cards later on throughout this pack. So I'll take a Sky Skiff here. There's also an Impeccable Timing, which isn't great. I'm not really interested in Fireweaver or Ardar Express, so yeah, I mean that's a lot of vehicles, but I think that should be okay. All right, so here we have a choice between Spontaneous Artist and Weldfast Monitor. I think I'm going to take the Artist. I like Weldfast Monitor more. I think it's a better card, but I already have enough 3-drops, so it would more like be an upgrade on a 3-drop, whereas I want to play this as a 4-drop. I also have a couple of guys on the top end flyers, which would be nice to hasten out, I suppose. So yeah, I like this pick. This is a good one for me. Just another solid card to fill out the deck. I don't really like this card at all in this kind of deck. Doesn't do much when my opponent's going to be blocking anyway. I like picking up a 2-drop because I desperately need them. It also works well with the Garrison and even the Iron Tread Crushers. I can give them haste even though it can't crew them on its own. So I'm really happy to pick up something like this at this point in the draft. Okay. And then I get this pack, which also has a bunch of good cards for me. So I can pick up another 3-power 3-drop. In Glintsleeve Artisan, I can pick up this thing, which plays really nicely with my Wheelsmiths, can crew my Crushers, or I can take a Propeller Pioneer, which works well with the Regent, and is also just a flyer. So honestly, I have definitely solid reasons to pick up all these cards. I have a lot of 3s, so I think I want to stay away from the Glintsleeve Artisan, even though it's better than all my other 3s. I'm honestly looking at the Doorbuster. Between the removal that I have and the Crushers and the Wheelsmiths, I think that it'll maybe play the best. It's possible that I should have taken the Pioneer, though. Alright, so I do have a lot of creatures, so maybe Inspiring Charge would be good. I mean, my creature count is only 14, but I do have these 3 vehicles as well. Or I could take a Salivating Gremlins. I have a few artifacts, not too many, though. So I don't love that in this deck, but I mean, I think I'm going to be playing 8 or 9 white sources anyway, so Inspiring Charge it is. It might not make the cut in the end, but yes, Veteran Motorist. I could not have hoped for a better card. So this is again, this one is the 8th, but I've gotten 7th, 7th, 8th pick red, white, gold cards. So that's really, really lucky for me. It's exactly where you want to see them because you're not tempted to take them the first time around. but they still make it to you late, and you get a first pick quality card really late in the draft. So fortunate for me. I needed the 2-drop anyway, and I was able to pick it up late, so that's great. Here's that pack, that original pack that came back around. I think I'm going to take this Sky Skiff, and I might actually play it over the Mobile Garrison. I don't have too much in the way of 1-power guys to crew it, but I think it's probably just better than this card for me. I don't want another 3-drop anyway, and yeah, that'll be interesting. I could also take the Ballista Charger, but I don't think I need the more expensive vehicle at this point. Nothing really left here, but I ended up with a solid deck, I think. I have to decide whether I want to play the extra land here. I don't have pretty much anything that uses mana, but I do have, so like I don't have any creatures with activated abilities that use mana. The only thing is that I have Reckless Racer, which is good with extra lands because you can ditch them. I also guess I have Free Jam Regent, so I can pump him, and that's pretty solid. But so I'm trying to decide if I want to play 16 lands. What would my cut be? So let's group our creatures separately. These guys are sort of like creatures. So what would my cut be? Maybe a Sky Skiff, but I do like all the shenanigans with my Veteran Motorist and Speedway Fanatic, Reckless Racer, so I like having all those. Even the 2 Frontline Rebels get a lot better. I didn't pick up any pump spells, which is a little bit disappointing. I guess it might even be like an Aeronauts, which would be kind of awkward to be cutting a top-end spell for land. I think I'm just going to play the 16. I got the Inspiring Vantage, which is nice, and I think I want to play 8 mountains and 7 plains here. Okay, so this is my deck. I think it's solid enough. Let's save it. And yeah, I will be back with the matches in just a moment.